Staying true to yourself means knowing who you are. And there's a lot of pressures from other people in your life. Parents, friends, peers. And if you don't know who you are, it can be hard to take stances on things in your life. I'm Lori Druskowski, and I help support you in finding what you love and to create a plan to live a more meaningful life. So knowing who you are and what you believe in is the first step in doing this. And for me, I didn't know who I was outside of being a mother. So I had to take steps to figure that out. And one of them is looking at what my values are. And I started out with a list. I went out and found a values list, crossed off the ones that really weren't important to me, went back through the list of the ones that were still remaining. And I just kept doing this till I got down to about 10. And then I organized them into what I thought my priorities were, what my values were. And I ranked them. And I started at the top and went down. And then I started to look at the top 3. And that's where I started to focus on. I also was looking at my beliefs. I started to see that my beliefs really weren't mine, that they were my parents or my sisters or friends, and even coworkers. I started to realize that I had different values and beliefs than them. And this was hard. It was hard to accept that I was going to be different than theirs. And this led me to take a deeper look at it, to see really what was important. And one of the things that I had realized is that I needed to become who I was, outside of being Lexi's mom, because that was the most important thing at the time. And for 10 plus years, she was my number one priority, even above myself. And I realized that I needed to figure out who I was, because eventually she was going to grow up and she was going to move away and start a family of her own and become an adult, just like every kid does. And I needed to know what I was going to be doing after that, because loss was part of my past. And after her dad died, I just flipped a switch, and that's why she became my number one priority. Starting to explore what I liked, I was looking into the metaphysical, and I met a lady who I started walking with daily, and it began with just normal chit chat. And I had to be willing to talk about it. At first, I just started asking questions because she was definitely into all of this stuff. She was a little further ahead than I was in knowing what it is, because I was still just learning. And then I realized that at this time, this was what I needed. This is who I was at that time. And now things have changed just as they have before. But it allowed me to see who I was, to see what my values were, to see what my beliefs were. And that leads me into another point, is finding supportive people. And if you don't have those people in your life, whether they're family or friends, and sometimes even coworkers, that you can look online. Listen to podcasts of people who are starting to inspire you, the people who have the same beliefs that you do. Continue to remind yourself that it is okay. It is okay to be thinking and feeling those things that you're going through. Just because, one, the people around you don't support you doesn't mean that that's not true to you. So find people who share those beliefs with you or those same values, and look for the supportive people in your life. But with that, you also have to be willing to open up. And for me, opening up has been difficult, and especially after her dad died, because like I said, a switch just flipped and it just became all about my daughter. And so when I've had these people come into my life, I almost didn't trust that they were going to stay. for whatever reason, they were going to leave, they were going to die. I had this mental belief in my head about it. And then came a couple of people who they in themselves were open with me, which allowed me to open up to them. And they continued to support me in those journeys and figuring out who I was. And that was so important. It was so important for my growth to know that it was okay. Even if it was different from what I was ever used to hearing or seeing or having in my life. And they continue to remind me that it was just okay. There was nothing wrong with it. And I hope that you are able to, 1, find these people, 2, be willing to open up about it, and 3, to really figure out who you are. Start with the values list. And once you come up with the top, 3 to 5, start incorporating those into your life. When I figured out that even though my daughter was number 1 in my life for most of her life, I realized that she is gonna leave. And I now value that time with her. We set aside time every week to make sure that we still are connecting. Stay true to yourself and don't let outside external factors influence your life. Figure out who you are, and it will lead you in brilliant directions.